Today I would like to just share my experience with you, my Christian experience as a so-called Christian. I had attended a church gathering, and it was a very big gathering, on January the 22nd, 1991, my spiritual birthday. And I had been praying because I had gone from church to church, and I had a grandfather who was a pastor, so I was in church on Sundays at his church, and I just never felt anything. I just never really felt any significant thing. But I used to look around in the church, and I would experience despair. I would see it on people's face, and even in my own life, I was very unhappy. And I just, it just wasn't for me. Then as I got older, I kind of drifted from church to church, looking to fill a void that I had within me. And a lot of times the Christian pastors would say to me, well, you just don't know how to stay put. And I had one of them tell me, well, you need to just get your feet broken or something so you could just stop running. But, I really wasn't running because I was running away from being close to God. I guess I was running because I was trying to find the true Spirit of God, the one that I felt in my heart. I was trying to find that. And I could not find it in the churches, I was just, you go in there and it seemed like people want to pair with you for the wrong reasons. And it just was a lot of inconsistencies. There was cliques. I was never included. When God said his people are set aside, he means you are set aside. Because even in those situations, the situation that I just described, you just don't fit in. You just don't fit in. You don't even fit into your family. Okay, so, but I continued to go, and as time went by, I began to pray, just to pray very vigorously about this void that I had within me. So I would pray, Lord, what is wrong with these churches? I just, I don't feel like I should be here. I don't feel like, they don't want me here in a lot of cases. And that's just how I felt. And so one day I had gone to it was like a revival. It was like a week-long revival. And I had gone for like 3 days out of that week. And this is what I said to the Lord. I said, at that particular time I was a Christian, so I said, Father God, the Catholic version of Christianity. I say, if I am someone who is chosen of you, would you give me a sign? I said, I've been seeking you for so long, and I can't seem to find you in the churches. Now, when I'm not in church and I'm away and I'm at home and it's just him and I can feel his presence. And so the music started playing, of course. It was a lot of like entertainment. So the music started playing, and people were running and shouting and that type of behavior. And there was a panel of pastors, and they were all gathered on the stage, and they were doing team preaching. One would finish and another one would pick up, and he would go and he would go. And the people seemed to be very impressed by their lofty words. So there was a song that came on. Excuse me, I can't remember the song. But I got up, excuse me, and lifted my hands up in prayer. I lifted my hands up, and I felt a breeze. Now, it was in the wintertime, and the church was, whoever took care of the HVAC system, they took care of it very graciously, because there really wasn't a draft in the church. But I felt a draft when I put my hands up. And the draft went from my fingertips to my hands, down my arms, and down all the way down to my whole body, to the bottom of my feet. And I had remembered that I prayed before I had entered this congregation of people, that if I was chosen of you, give me a sign. Because it had been years, and I know now God does not always give you signs, but I had diligently been seeking. So that was one thing. And then there was another time when I was in church, my regular local church, and I looked around me, and there was the elite group and this other group and the usher group, and it was all about structure. It didn't have a whole lot to do with spirituality. I just didn't feel that it had a lot to do with spirituality, because I would notice how they would treat the people that attended the church, especially the newcomers. And I was one of the newcomers right away. So when I left the church, I was driving home with my daughter. My young daughter was very young. She was about 7 or 8 at the time. And I was driving home, and I broke down and I started crying. And this is what I said. I said, Lord, I said, my entire life I have been not accepted in groups. And I understand that the pastor, he preached about being set aside and peculiar people and this type of stuff. I say, but Lord, I want to ask you this. Am I one of your chosen ones? And I was continuing to cry, and I was continuing to drive. And at that point, I stopped praying, because I wanted to hear what God had to say back in response to what I asked. And I'm going to tell you all, if you get close enough to God, He begins to communicate with you. And I want to say this to my, my Israelite family. This is our time to form relationships with God. This is not about how many wives you can have. It's not about I am lonesome and I prayed and prayed and prayed and my husband didn't come. It's not about I don't have, my family don't care for me, or I don't have friends. It's about getting into a relationship with God. That is the reason why you were born. That is the reason why you're here. Your parents and your family was the people that God had used as a vehicle to get you here. And they really don't owe you anything. They got you here. Now your job is to form a wholesome relationship with the Most High Yah. So I continued to drive, and tears continued to come from my eyes. And all of a sudden I heard, it was in my heart. It was a voice. And he said, yes, you are my chosen one. Oh, this was on a Sunday because at that time, we celebrate on Sunday in the Christian churches. I was so excited. I said, oh my God, God has chosen me. So I went on to tell people, oh, you know what? I was driving home from church and I asked God a question and he answered it. I'm one of his chosen people. And people thought I was crazy. People thought I was crazy. Okay, so I could not wait to the following Sunday because I wanted to tell my pastor that the Most High God has spoken to me, and he told me that I was one of his chosen people. I was so excited about that. And so Sunday came around. It was time to go to church again. So I got my daughter ready for church. I got myself ready for church. And I went, and when I opened the door of the church to walk in, the entrance door, there was my pastor walking down the hall. And so I said, well, excuse me, can I just say something to you for a moment? I said, I was driving home. I told him the whole thing, I was driving home last Sunday and I had spoken to God and I asked him, why, did he choose me to be one of his own? And he told me he did. I said, I am chosen of God. I was so excited. And my pastor, and I'm not putting him down, okay? Because I understand that the pastors have to go to seminary and they have their 501(c)(3)s or whatever. But this is what he told me. He said that was deja vu. Wow. I said it was God. I said it was God. I said I know it was God. It was God. I can't describe the voice, but it wasn't a human voice. And I kept trying to explain. He said it was deja vu. He said the chosen people of God are in the Middle East. They have, reddish brown skin. And they are, some people call them Arabs. And he said, but you are not one of the chosen people of God. You're a Gentile. But he said, what God did for you is God engrafted you in. God engrafted you in. So he said being engrafted in is kind of like being adopted. He said, you know anyone that's adopted? I said, yes. I have a family member that, I had an uncle and an aunt that adopted 3 or 4 kids. And I said, so yeah, I know. He said, well, once you're adopted in, you're family. When you get adopted in, you even take that name. I was devastated. I said, God, for real? I said, so you didn't choose me? I know I heard your voice. Some years had gone by. But in those years, God blessed me with illumination of the scripture. He gave me evidence. He just blessed me whatever I needed financially or whatever. He was always there in the nick of time. He blessed me with a home that was affordable. He just blessed me with all these things. And then being in the church that I was in, I met pastors. This was a teaching church, so pastors was coming through there for the education and that type of stuff. I met pastors, and I seemed to always connect with them because they felt I was a spiritual person. I said, can't be right. I said, can't be right. I know God told me that I am his chosen people. And I've experienced it all through my life. Okay, so, but anyways, I just began to pray. And some years went by. I mean, many years went by, like more than 10 had gone by. And I just continued to pray. As time went on, I wasn't as spiritual as I once were. I kind of went back to the world. I was pretty, still disappointed. I mean, I heard what God said, but I heard what my pastor had said as well. And so I was confused. And so anyway, I began to pray. On the job, I prayed every single day, at home, all day long, every day. And this is what I said to God. I said, I want to be in a situation where I don't have to work for anybody. I want to work for you. And I want to dedicate my entire life to you. Well, I'm not going to get into everything that happened. But you have to be, I used to hear people say, be careful what you pray for. Be careful what you pray for. Because in praying for that, guess what he did? He moved me from the job that I had. Got rid of the job. I was put into a situation where I couldn't do nothing but totally depend on him. And you know what, viewers? That was the best experience that ever happened to me. It was hard. It was hard because, I had to do some things so that I could meet, pay my bills and that type of stuff. But everything I needed was provided for me. And I am saying that to say this right here. This is the time for us to form true relationships with God. And in forming those relationships, God is going to peel some stuff away from you. He's going to peel people away from you. He's going to peel family away from you. Maybe the job. And then, but what you have to do is you have to stay faithful. If you stay faithful, you will begin to see him working into your life. You will begin to see it. And then I had the opportunity to take the job back. When you get close enough to God, you don't have to worry that you don't have friends and no one to talk to, because you will be seeking and waiting to hear from him again as he begins to speak to you. And I prayed about it. I say, Lord, I have opportunity to get the job back. And before I could say much more, he said to me, I took you out of there. Why would you go back? It might not be as easy for you to get out again if you go back. Okay. Now, the human part of me said, well, if I go back, I have a little bit, stability, because that's what I was used to. But I realized that I could live on less. And then I found myself, I had began to get sick because of the stress that was on the job, migraine headaches and that type of stuff. When he took me off that job, all of that went away. When you dedicate your life to the Most High Yah, don't you know he preserve you, he protect you, and he will keep you well. And that's what happened to me. He kept me well. He moved people out of my life, because if you lose your job, what happened you would find out who was really in your corner. You find out. So it all worked out fine, because the people that wasn't in my corner that I thought was, I didn't need them in my life anyways. And then, because I had told the Most High Yah that if he would, let me just work for him in totality. I had told him that, things are just, friends and everybody just kind of pulled away. Even relationships just wasn't my thing. I mean, I didn't work out in relationships. So now, many years later, I understand everything that happened. I guess I was judged because I did sway away from God. And so, when everything was gone and the people that I thought was there was gone, I got closer to him. After all the anger that I had gone through, and the loneliness, I got closer to him. And what I had to do was I had to get away from the brainwash. You got to have a job. You got to work 30 years. If you don't, your retirement going to be messed up and all this kind of stuff. I had to let all that go. So now what I'm working on is I'm letting some emotions go that I, very emotional. Letting those things go. And I am seeking to just get closer. Just get closer. Because I had learned in the past that when you turn your life over to God and you dedicate your life to God, He give you understanding. He lets you into His secrets. You know of His secrets that other people, they can pick up the Bible, and pastors too, and they can read these Bibles over and over. But if God does not open up His secrets to them and illuminate them to His word, there's things in there they don't understand. I learned that. And a lot of them say the same things over and over. You go from church to church, they have the same things over and over. When God opened up that word, His word to me, I was able to take those scriptures that I had heard over and over and pull stuff out of them that pastors told me they never heard. But when they was looking at it as the Lord had me present it, they saw exactly what it was saying. And I even had them say to me, I never saw that there, but it was always there. Those are the secret things that God let you in on. This is to my family, my Israelite family, this particular part of the message right here. This is our time to get close to God. This is our time to form a sincere relationship with God. It's not time for us to boast about being in the line of Abraham, or how many people we can marry and sleep with, and we got to tear down all these little kingdoms, because that's exactly what it is. We starting to build our own kingdoms and off of pride and arrogance and selfishness, and it's not about God. When Yahshua HaMashiach was here, or some would say Jesus Christ, He came here And he dedicated his life, it was 33 years, to what God wanted him to do. And if you asked him, he would tell you, he told his own mother, I'm about my father's business, in the synagogue. As a kid, 12 years old, I'm about my father's business. He wasn't selfish. He wasn't looking about what his reward was going to be and how many women he should sleep with because God has sent him here. He was totally about his father's business. Now we're living in a time, we got the coronavirus, and we're living in a new season. We're living in a season right now where our oppressors are being shaken up. This is our time, family, to establish relationships with God. We are still sinners. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. And we need to mend that breach. We're not in the standing that we think we are. We have sinned, and he hates sin. When his son, Yahshua HaMashiach, or Jesus Christ, took up the sins of the world, what did the Most High do? Turned his back on him. He hates sin. And Yahshua HaMashiach said, why have thou forsaken me? Because he had taken on the sins of the world. Before we can say we love God, before we can say that we're going to follow these commandments and these statutes and these laws of God, we have to come in alignment with God. And we can do it with our mouths and with our hearts and with our souls. From there, he will give us understanding of the word. We won't keep making mistakes in the things that we say, because he will send the Holy Spirit to illuminate us. He will send him forth to bring action like he did in the beginning. And we need to go to the book of Proverbs. About wisdom, in the book of wisdom, and we need to ask for wisdom. You know, in the Bible where it says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Well, fruitfulness can mean several things. But one of the things that it means is to be productive. Don't you know fruitfulness comes from wisdom? And wisdom comes from the Most High Yah through the Ruach Tokma, which is the spirit of wisdom. That's God's spirit of wisdom. Like he have the Holy Spirit, he have the spirit of wisdom, or the Ruach Tokma. We need to get it together. And the world need to learn the fate of Abba Yah. Or you would say Abba Father, or some of you would say that, the Christians. Okay? This is serious. We are living in a very exciting time. And God has come to stand in the gap. It's already started for his people. So what we have to do now is we have to pick up our cross and bear it. We have to sincerely open up our minds and our hearts and be what God ordained us or predestined us to be. Time is running out. This isn't about all this flexing and you acting just like the world when you do that. And I'm proud, and I'm part of the Abrahamic line, and so that means I could do everything he did because he had all these wives. I can have them too. It's not about that. A lot of us gonna be left behind. A lot of us gonna be left behind because we have taken up the ways of the world, which is the spirit of whoredom. And God is looking down on it. Our kids are not being taught. We're in a position now where our people, we are lawyers, we're doctors, we're teachers, we're psychiatrists. Just about everything that you can name, we invented it. But what do? We take up the education that the world has given us. And in that education, it causes division because if you're a boule, then if I'm not from your group of people, the boule people, then I'm not treated as a sister. And these organizations, these boule organizations, have satanic tendencies. We don't see that because we have adopted the ways of the world. And we have put those ways before God. And I'm not putting anybody down. But we need to pay attention to the things that's first and foremost in our life. Your sisters and brothers in God or Yah, we have to learn to love them. We have a lot of unraveling to do. I hear that that's part of our curse, that we kind of turned against each other. But God is looking down on that, and it's time for us to start practicing to remove that. It's time for us to start looking out for each other, having each other's back. It's time for us to get away from anything that separates us from Yah. It's time for us to not be that gatekeeper. Not be that gatekeeper to keep our people controlled, because this system of things is passing away. So we need to now pick up the things that are to come and our foreverness. When God put us in the place that we are to be in, He said we're gonna be there forever. He gonna put His laws in our heart. So we're not gonna have to struggle to try to do them and keep them. He gonna put them in our heart. But He can't do everything for us. I see, we are so relaxed that, and that He's just gonna do everything for us. What I've learned about God is, the Most High Yah, the things that we can do for ourselves, He won't do those things for us. When He come in to do for us, we've done all that we can do. And He takes it from there. I'm not trying to put anybody down. But I'm going to say this, and it's just my opinion. It's like we're moving into another dispensation. And this one's going to be eternal. It's going to be forever. And not all of us are going to make it in. So I encourage you. Go in your private places, your quiet places, on your knees, however you do it. Ask for this special relationship with God and expect your life to change. Expect your life to change. Because there's going to be a change. It might not seem like it's for the better at first, but as time go by, you'll see that it's for the better. This life as we know it is passing away. God has already begun to fight our battles. But there's some things that we have to do. Okay? Okay, I love you, family. And I'm just praying that my people come to know and love God in the way that He would have us do so before it's too late. Thank you and goodbye.